Wow. Not very often am I surprised in this sports world. Not much surprises me or should surprise you. We've seen wild things occur in this sports world, especially in this era across the board. But Micah Parsons being traded surprised me. And I know it surprised all of you. I'm Mike Asti, and this is a mic drop edition here of the Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show. And I am going to drop the mic and react to what everybody else is reacting to in the sports world. The Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones trading Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers, of all teams. The HBS and Mic Drop can both be found everywhere you get your podcasts. Making this kind of a combination show here, my co-host of the Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show, George Carbo, not able to join me for this despite being a Packers fan. I'm sure we're going to get into it on a future episode of the HBS. But since it's just me, it's a mic drop of sorts. So it'll go on both channels. I own both shows. It'll go on both shows. And the HBS can be found everywhere you get your podcasts. It is part of the Fan First Sports Network on the national side of the network now. And the mic drop portion of this, my mic drop show, can also be found, made possible by the Believe Network, available everywhere you get your pods, and with Sirius XM. As I said before, I'm surprised. I'm shocked. I'm not necessarily at the level that I was at when the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. That's the most surprising sports trade of the year, if not the freaking century. That's a mega deal of epic proportions that nobody thought was going to happen, that no one saw coming. Even the most tapped in NBA insiders admitted they had no idea that was going to happen. However, this is a close second, and it's also Dallas sports. So sorry, Dallas sports fans. At least you had the Texas Rangers win a recent World Series, and the Stars are really, really good. But the two franchises you care about the most that have some history to them, certainly the Cowboys in terms of history, they've let you down. Two superstars, your two biggest superstars, your two best players in your market, now gone within the same year. But I was surprised by these two trades for two very, very different reasons. I mean, Luka Doncic was so wrapped up as being the new face of the Mavs. They had just appeared in the NBA Finals, so they kind of got close to the mountaintop with him and proved doubters wrong that maybe they couldn't get there with the way the team was built. No, they just got to the NBA Finals. And obviously, he's a global sensation in the NBA. That face, your marketable asset, is your individual star, and he was that for the franchise. But Mark Cuban sells and no longer the majority owner, and all hell's break loose. And who knows how that'll work in the future. AD much older. I still don't think they're going to be the contender they think they are. And Luka now with the Lakers, and maybe he'll become even a bigger star, being with the Lakers and being the next face of that franchise when LeBron James finally retires. But they were winning with Luka, and then we heard a lot of other things about him being in shape or not, and different discontent they had with him and didn't want to pay him the mega money. That's where this is similar, but they were just winning. Okay, they got close to the peak. They were knocking on the door. The Dallas Cowboys, not so much. So maybe this makes this different. But now the crater they could fall into without Micah Parsons, they could be one of the worst defenses in the league. Yeah, they're paying a lot of money to Dak. They got George Pickens now, along with CD Lamb, and they have maybe a high-powered offense that'll throw up some points. But if they score 32, they're going to give up 35. And the difference, again, is the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, they don't give up on stars. They don't want to do a full-on rebuild where they're horrible for a year or two. That maybe is the argument of making this okay. You get a couple of first-round draft picks back and a Pro Bowler. I'll get to maybe the argument for it being okay here in a moment. But Jerry Jones was still the owner. Mark Cuban no longer involved. Okay, they did it out from under Mark Cuban. He didn't want it, and they did it anyway. Jerry Jones very much involved. Maybe senile now, but very much involved still. and he gave up on a star because of money. He let it get personal. That's the issue here. So these two situations, these two mega trades for Dallas sports, very, very different. Very, very different on why I was surprised and why everyone was surprised when these two went down. But on the Micah Parsons end of things, this tells me a lot about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Tells me a little about the Packers. And, my co-host of the HBS, George Garbo, Packers fan, so we'll get there. But this tells me a lot about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. And ironically enough, when this went down, was right on the heels of when I watched America's Team, the Netflix documentary, really on Jerry Jones, but also on the 90s Cowboys and, a little bit of where they are today in that franchise, from him being an owner to now and that whole journey. I'll tell you right now, great documentary. That's a great film. I highly recommend it if you have not tuned in. And I don't get to binge watch many things these days with a toddler and a newborn, but I was able to, 2 episodes a night when everyone went to bed, and I enjoyed it. But it tells me that Jerry Jones is not the same guy he was during that documentary. Maybe the filming of it, but not when it was, when it was going on, the reason for it, not what was happening early when he became the owner of the Cowboys dynasty, him getting rid of Jimmy Johnson, still winning with Barry Switzer, and even through the end of the 90s, that Jerry Jones, a different guy than Jerry Jones today in 2025, 100%. Because this is the Jerry Jones that gave up on a star. Back then, Jerry Jones was in the midst of winning back-to-back, and then had a year off in 94, and they lose to the 49ers who win, and they go get Dion. Jerry Jones at that time was willing to spend tons of money, was willing to risk it all in his pocketbook. He did that to buy the Dallas Cowboys and live out his dream in the first place, buying them, imagine this, for $150 million. That's less than what some players are getting these days in the NFL. And, Micah Parsons himself getting almost $50 million just annually, 47. So that's Micah Parsons himself in particular gets more than what Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys for. But he went all in to buy the Cowboys. He went all in to, at that time, trade Hershel Walker early on. Him and Jimmy Johnson got together, traded Hershel Walker, only good player, got a lot of draft picks. Maybe he'll connect the dots to this and Micah Parsons. He certainly argued that already, but they're very, very different things, by the way. He went all in with the draft and went all in with players and star players and kept bringing them there. Again, I mentioned Dion, and even kept doing that. And, they didn't win every single year, and they certainly dipped off in the late 90s before really dipping off in the 2000s here, and they haven't been back to an NFC title game even since that 95 season when they won their last championship. And there's been playoff appearances. Took a while to prove a playoff win, but playoff disappointment as well, even when they've had good teams and won a lot of games in the regular season. But even going in the 2000s, you bring in Terrell Owens. You eventually give up on him, but you bring in Terrell Owens. He wanted to bring in stars, keep stars, and overpay for stars. But the situation's different today. The model's different today. There is a cap. These players are brands in and of themselves. They can make money. Parsons did with his own podcast. He can make money on their own. They don't need the owner as much. They feel like they're an equal. They feel like they're in partnership of this thing. They all have agents. They all have representation. Jerry Jones wouldn't talk to the agent. That's been well documented, and as asinine as ever, that got us here. But Jerry Jones, this tells me he can't relate to the current player. This tells me he's not just willing to spend whatever and do whatever for win now that he's always said. This tells me that he is willing to do potentially a year or two of a gap year before they really hit the ground running again. Weird in his age when he says he wants another ring. This tells me that he does want to do business like it was in the 90s. He wants to be the gambler of the 90s. He wants to do that where it's him and the player. I'll take care of you. He has paid a lot of money to current players and Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, etc. But it also tells me he's not in tune with the current player. He's not in tune with the current superstar. He won't even acquiesce because he made all this personal. Jerry Jones made this personal and ended up trading Micah Parsons and setting the Cowboys back and screwing the Cowboys that he loves so much because he made this personal. Micah Parsons wants him to talk to his agent. Very, very reasonable. A lot of people have agents. Okay, I have colleagues that have agents. I don't, but I have colleagues that have agents just on our level of media. People have agents. Obviously, Micah Parsons is going to have an agent. And that's a problem for Jerry Jones. He wanted to do this one-on-one, like maybe he did with Dion so many years ago. He thought this was similar to Emmitt Smith, that he eventually gave money after he missed a few games in the 93 season when they eventually would win a championship. That was a stacked team. But yeah, they needed Emmitt Smith. But again, man versus man, he could handle it then because it's a different era of player, different generation, different rules. The cap was different. Everything was different back then. Players didn't drive the bus. These NFL players are trying to become NBA players as much as they can, trying to do a Luka type of thing, trying to become the LeBron of this sport, where they want to control things and kind of run the league. The NFL is different still. With the guaranteed money being important, every contract is not guaranteed. The guaranteed money is what's guaranteed, but not the overall deal. You get hurt, you can get screwed out of the money, all of that. The owners still kind of have that control. They do not in the NBA. But that's what NFL players like Micah Parsons are trying to force. That's what they're trying to force. Lamar Jackson tried to force and make the whole contract guaranteed. Deshaun Watson and the deal that he got recently, as insane as that was, that's what NFL players are trying to force, and Jerry Jones cannot deal with it. Jerry Jones cannot deal with it. Jerry Jones wants it to be like the 90s so much that he was willing to hurt the Cowboys and trade Micah Parsons. Again, mic drop here, Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show here. You can find both shows everywhere you get your podcasts. Mic drop also with Believe and available on SiriusXM, and the Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show with the Fan First Sports Network on the national side as well here, as I am reacting to the Cowboys dealing Micah Parsons to the Green Bay freaking Packers. As insane as that sounds. Surprised on both ends, honestly, here. But Jerry Jones cannot relate to the current player. And he let emotions get the best of him. Jerry Jones let his emotions of Micah Parsons trying to control things and win the deal, and players evaluate themselves and how they're being taken care of on what they're getting paid. If I feel I'm better than you, I got to get more money than that guy. That's the player mentality. It doesn't mean that every highest paid player is going to be the best, but they want these contracts ripped up, okay? They want to make sure that if they are the best, they're getting paid like the best. And I'm not saying you always do it. I advocated on a recent show here, covered the Steelers. Cam Hayward's way older, just got a new deal a year ago. Doesn't make sense to rip that damn thing up again. Does not make sense for him. Micah Parsons, at 26 years old, in his prime, as the best defensive player in the league, arguably, a game wrecker, to say the least. It could make sense. It needed to make sense. If you're seeing what TJ Watt and Myles Garrett got, he is better. He is younger. You had to. And if you're so close on the money and then you're worried about an agent, you wouldn't do it his way. You wanted to win the business deal. Jerry Jones wanted to win the business deal more than he wants to win games. He's winning in business. He has the Netflix documentary that I mentioned. His franchise is worth more than any other pro sports franchise in the world. He's a billionaire. He's winning. He's being talked about everywhere. He's been talked about more than any other owner in recent weeks going into the new season. Jerry Jones is winning that way. He's winning as a marketer. He's winning as a businessman. He's not winning enough on the football field, certainly not winning in the postseason, and going to win a lot less now coming up. But Jerry Jones let it be personal and hurt the Cowboys, because now I'll get to the deal. Yes, he's getting 2 first-round picks, but if you really want to do a Hershel Walker type of trade, and you really want to do that, okay, we're not winning a title now, let's try to maybe take a step back, we'll get a lot of draft picks, we'll retool, etc. Here's how that doesn't make sense, and that's just a bill of goods he's selling, because he is, again, a great marketer and trying to be a great PR guy, even though this deal sucks for Cowboys fans. He's trying to sell them this, though. If you're going to do a Hershel Walker trade, you do it before a draft. So you force those draft picks to be in the draft, because you're likely dealing with solid draft picks, maybe a bad team, or Green Bay actually missed the playoffs. So the picks this year for Green Bay would be better than what they're going to be coming up. If you do this, you get draft picks from them a year from now or 2 years from now, because they're going to be coming off of seasons with Micah Parsons on the field. Because you figure now Green Bay's a contender. So if Green Bay becomes a playoff team or makes a deep run or wins a championship, that's a late first-round pick, even if it's a first-round pick. Whether it's 1 or 2, it's late first-round picks. If you do it this year, and you would have done it before the draft, you would get a much better selection. You force that. Maybe you also don't work with Green Bay, who's an NFC team that you have history with, a long damn line of history with, going back into the documentary, by the way, and certainly could go ahead and win a title and have that be egg on your face in your conference. Maybe you prefer to deal him to an AFC team, a Buffalo Bills, who's very hungry, that were in rumors. Maybe you throw him, if you're going to be in the NFC, throw him to a Carolina that has cap space, that isn't going to win right away. Maybe you do that type of thing if you want to do it, but not to Green Bay of all teams. But if you got to work with Green Bay, like the Mavericks had to work with the Lakers, even though they pigeonholed themselves and should have put him out in the open market in Luka Doncic, they would have got more in the deal. That's the biggest issue. They didn't get enough in the deal for Luka. Then you would get more for Micah Parsons. You would get better draft picks. You also should get more draft picks than just 2. We've seen lesser players go for 3 or 4 draft picks here. And I know they're first rounders, but you should get more for a 26-year-old Micah Parsons, okay? The Steelers were never going to trade TJ Watt, but if they did, from what I've heard, they wanted multiple first-round picks. They wanted at least 1 and maybe 2 or 3 other picks. They wanted more than what the Cowboys got in the Micah Parsons trade. And they didn't get enough. That's the biggest issue. And I do also get you bring in a multiple-time Pro Bowler, a defensive lineman, a tackle that can really help you in the run game. And that's what Jerry Jones wants. He wants help in the run game. I get that part too, because when you had Micah Parsons, you weren't winning. You had an issue in your defense still. He's only one man, and your pass rush should still be okay without Parsons, even though not nearly as good because of other pieces there. But one Pro Bowl player is not Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He is a game wrecker. He's arguably the best defensive player in football. And when you're in a win now mode that doesn't care about maybe your bottom line for a minute because you prioritize football and winning on the football field over everything else, over business, over your personal feelings, then you bring in Micah Parsons and give him the money that he's getting. Then you're the Green Bay Packers. They don't have a Jerry Jones, obviously. They're owned by the people, including HBS co-host George Gerbo with a stake in the team. But you then make a move like this. They weren't a playoff team, but with a young quarterback and other pieces there, they feel like you had Parsons, and now they can make a run in a wide-open conference. If the Eagles aren't going to do it again, why not them when other teams have taken a step back? Detroit loses their coaches, their assistant coaches, their coordinators. Okay, here's Green Bay taking a step forward. Minnesota is going to have an inexperienced quarterback. Here's Green Bay again taking a step forward. This is Green Bay going all in. This is the gambler going all in. Jerry Jones was called a gambler in the documentary. Okay, it's the gambler in his Cowboys. He gambled to own the team. He gambled with how he strategized early on. He gambled bringing in college coaches. He gambled with the Hershel Walker trade. He gambled with Deion Sanders. He gambled defending star players in legal trouble. He gambled again later with Terrell Owens. He gambled with Bill Parcells. This isn't Jerry Jones gambling. This is Jerry Jones losing a business deal, playing it safe, worried about his money more than on the field, and making it way too personal, which screwed him in this deal, which screws him for the future, which screws him on the football field, and screws his beloved Cowboys more than anything. He wins the boardroom in his eyes, but sticks to his guns over helping the team on the field. That's wild. That's not the Jerry Jones. That's now a crazy senile Jerry Jones. That's not the gambler in his Cowboys the documentary was made about. That's not the Hall of Fame executive and owner that really is one of the best owners in sports history, from what happened on the field to what he did marketing with a business model and sponsorship and taking over a franchise that at the time was floundering, making them more historic, and then changing the way the NFL does business with sponsorship and what's a monopoly and what's not. And the NFL has a Reebok deal, and you end up with Phil Knight and Nike, and they're with Coke, and you're with Pepsi, and you go to court and you win that battle. That is the gambler Jerry Jones. That's a legend that I love watching that documentary to hear about. This guy is like your grandfather that runs a business. You got to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Pap, you're done." This is that guy. That's what Jerry Jones is now. And I don't know if his son will be any different. He doesn't talk in these pressers. He just sits there and, looks at his dad. I don't know if his daughters will be any different. They did talk in the documentary, but they admit they're not really football people. I don't know where the Cowboys go. Obviously, they're going to stay in the Jones family. I don't know if it'll be any better in the future, but it's not the Hershel Walker deal at all. If you would have wanted Hershel Walker type deal, you do it before the draft this year. But they wanted Micah Parsons. They just wanted him on their terms, and then that couldn't happen. They realized he wasn't going to play, and he was sticking to his guns, and they bit a bullet and took an L in the Micah Parsons deal for sure. Because part of this too is they're not just a losing, floundering team, even though they took a step back last year, like when the Cowboys had Hershel Walker and they weren't winning. Okay, you have one great player, you're not winning with him, trade him and get more and get better, and then eventually draft Emmitt Smith and company. No, they just paid Dak Prescott $60 million a year. They just paid other players. They just traded for George Pickens. You're not going to outscore everybody if that's what they think. But they're making win now decisions otherwise. They're spending money otherwise. But then you take this step back defensively, trade your best player, only get 2 first rounders, have it be in a draft when you're eventually going to, at that point, be dealing with worse draft picks, and yet you do that? No, that then doesn't make sense. But that's what happened here. That's what happened here. That's what happened with the crazy Jerry Jones of today, of 2025. That's what happened here. And there's no putting lipstick on a pig here. Anyone who wants to argue that, okay, it's two first round picks. Again, as I said, these are going to be late first round picks likely. You get a Pro Bowl player, but he's not Micah Parsons, period, point blank. Your team is worse today than it was yesterday. Your team is going to be worse tomorrow than it was a couple days ago. Your team is not better now without Micah Parsons than they were with Micah Parsons. And if you're the gambler and you're a Hall of Fame executive, and Jerry Jones from the 90s would never do this. Jerry Jones now is getting emotional with business and cares more about that. He's winning there for sure than he does about winning on the football field. At least he has 3 rings, I guess, in his mind, even though it's eons ago when I was a freaking kid. He doesn't care. He has the 3. He still was talking about the 3 rings and crying about him and remembering those memories like they were yesterday. He has the trophies in his office. He should. It's better to have 3 than 0, even if they're 30 years ago. But there's not anything happening again in terms of contending in the playoffs or winning a championship. None of that is happening again. The Packers are more likely to win it this year than the Cowboys are for the next decade, probably. And I will quickly get into George Gerbo's Green Bay Packers here. Again, Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show. Combo HBS here. HBS and Mic Drop here. Made possible by the Believe Network for Mic Drop, also available everywhere you get your podcasts and via SiriusXM, thanks to the Believe Network, and the Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show, available everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, etc. That Green Bay now is an instant title contender. Instant title contender. I didn't believe in the Packers making a deep run, maybe be a playoff team, maybe a wild card. I thought Detroit was still better than them. Jordan Love, I'm still not fully sold on. And, running game, other parts of the defense, secondary is still a concern. But Micah Parsons can wreck a game. He can give you a win or two. Jordan Love, I don't think is one of the best quarterbacks in football, but he's good enough. I think he's good enough when healthy. I think if they get enough offense with what they're now going to have defensively, because now they have the best pass rush in football when you pair multiple all-pro players together, Detroit has taken a step back. The Vikings do have J.J. McCarthy, who I think will be good in that offense. I do, but it's still going to be his first year in it. The Bears are still a bit away with Caleb Williams and company. They're still a bit away. The Packers are now the favorite for me in the NFC North. And if I don't think the Eagles are going to do it again, I don't. Just so hard to do it again. I don't think they're going to. Washington maybe could be that team. I don't, they're together now. They kept McLaurin as they should. But they just kind of got far last year. Maybe they take a step back. Maybe Daniels does. Who knows? They're a wild card. They certainly could. They can make another run. Maybe Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, but I don't know how much I'm really buying into it. Go over out west. Who's really there? Do you think the Niners are ever going to get back? Are the Rams going to really get back and be contenders? They got good last year again, but what do they do now with Stafford being a year older? It's a wide open NFC. It's a wide open NFC, and maybe the champ comes out of the AFC. Maybe it's Baltimore. Maybe it's Buffalo. Maybe it's Denver. Maybe it's the Chiefs again. They certainly could get back again, a 4th straight Super Bowl, and actually winning again after losing to the Eagles last year. Could all happen. Bengals, Steelers are there. Got to bring them up. Raiders, maybe they bounce back and be the Cinderella story. The Chargers could certainly be good. And they had success last year with Harbaugh in a safer type offense with Herbert than what was going on prior. Even as boring, they were winning more. But it's a wide open NFC. It's a wide open NFC now, and the Packers have a good enough QB, offensive weapons, defensive weapons, and the best defensive player, certainly in the conference, if not in football. They have a game record on defense, and if Jordan Love stays healthy and gives you enough on offense, that team should win the division, should do better in those divisional matchups, and maybe could go the distance. That's where the Packers now are because of bringing in Micah Parsons, and that's a win-now move that if you're a Packers fan, you got to love it. You got to love it if you're a Packers fan. You have to. You have to love it. That's going all in. They've been floundering for a decade of, okay, even with Rodgers, we're good. We're not fully great. We're good. We're going to get in. But then we flounder in the playoffs. We don't go the distance. No one really picks them going into years. It's been a while. Now that's all changed. So Jerry Jones showed us he's different now. He's crazy now. He's senile now. Anyone who didn't want to believe that now really, really should. He made this business move about personal feelings and hurt the team on the field for not only the present but the future. Jerry not acting like he did in the 90s at all. That 90s gambler is gone. That guy is dead, even though he's alive and well as a person still running the Cowboys franchise. This is a horrible day for Dallas sports fans, a horrible day for Cowboys fans, but a great day if you're a Green Bay Packers fan. That'll do it for my mic drop of sorts on this national news shocking story of the Cowboys dishing out Micah Parsons to the Green Bay freaking Packers of all teams. Here you can find this rant session here, this solo edition of the show, my reaction on our mic drop, on my mic drop channel in our Howitzer and Buzz-Saw feed, everywhere you get your podcast for both shows, as well as YouTube, everywhere else you can find me on social media. My handle is below for us here on the video side, for anyone watching the video side. And again, you can thank Believe for the mic drop portion of this, and you can thank the Fan First Sports Network for the Howitzer and Buzz-Saw Show. So the mic drop is Jerry Jones is senile. He is crazy. He dropped the ball. He made an emotional decision that hurt the team. Listen to Michael Irvin. He ranted with a lot more emotions than me. He's still in it. He still cares. Just listen to what he had to say, and he defends Jerry no matter what. And the Green Bay Packers are now legit contenders with Micah Parsons. The pressure is now on Jordan Love to do it early in his career, like Favre did, like Rodgers did. They didn't do it later. They did it early. Is this kind of the time? You're around for a few years. Now you get a Reggie White player. It's like the Reggie White move for the Packers with Favre. That's a game changer. Won him a ring. Got him to 2. Is that going to happen now with Jordan Love in this era of Packer football? That's all very much in play. But watch the gambler and his Cowboys get Jerry some more money. He cares about that. You watching that is what he wants. That's his big win. He wins on in the business room. I don't know about this one though. I don't know about this one, especially if they're only a few million away. Didn't want to talk to an agent, made it personal, and shipped him off to an NFC rival. Probably going to go ahead and win a ring now. A big L for Jerry Jones that collected a lot of big wins early in his Hall of Fame career, but not many of them in recent memory. And I don't know how many of them are going to happen here again in the future.